Good afternoon, everyone. There are nights when something in you just knows, not loudly, not with certainty you could defend to someone else, just a quiet, persistent, slightly electric sense that something is shifting, that something that has been building slowly, invisibly, underneath the surface of ordinary days is getting close to the moment where it breaks through. If tonight is one of those nights for you, then maybe this found you at exactly the right time. Uh, Something incredible is coming. You felt it. Maybe not today. Maybe today was ordinary. Maybe today was difficult. But underneath the ordinary, underneath the difficulty, there's been something else. A quality in certain moments that feels different from the usual. A sense quiet, almost embarrassing to admit that something is building. That the accumulation of everything you've been doing and enduring and quietly becoming is approaching some kind of threshold, some kind of moment where things stop being the way they've been and start being something else entirely. And part of you believes it. That's why you're here. Some part of you, the part that hasn't been extinguished by the waiting or the disappointments or the specific grinding patience of a life that hasn't yet delivered the extraordinary thing. Some part of you still believes it's coming. But there's another part, and it's worth being honest about that part too. The part that immediately counteracts the believing with something quieter and more familiar. The part that says you've felt this before. You've had this sense before, this electric feeling that something is about to shift and then it didn't, or it shifted in ways you didn't expect, or it arrived and then left before you'd had time to fully hold it. And that part, the one with the memory of previous almost, is cautious, is protective, is very careful about letting the believing go too far. And so you live in a particular kind of tension between the part that feels the approach of something extraordinary and the part that's learned to manage that feeling down to a size that won't devastate you if it turns out to be wrong again. Between the hope and the protection from the hope. Between fully believing and keeping one hand braced just in case. That tension is familiar. It might be so familiar that you've stopped feeling it as tension. It just feels like how you relate to good things, with one eye open and one eye half closed, with enthusiasm that has a ceiling on it, with excitement that comes preloaded with its own management system. But here's what that tension does beyond protecting you from disappointment that's worth looking at carefully. It limits what you can receive, not metaphysically, practically. Because the version of you that approaches an extraordinary thing with one hand extended and one hand braced is a fundamentally different receiver than the version that approaches it with both hands open. The braced version intercepts things before they fully land, qualifies them before they're fully felt, finds the caveat in the good news before the good news has had time to actually be good. And so things arrive, real things, significant things, things that were meant to change something, and they get processed through the management system, and they come out smaller than they went in. That's the invisible ceiling. The one that sits not on what you can achieve or attract or work toward, but on what you can receive, on how much of a good thing you can let fully land before something in you starts to find reasons to reduce it, to qualify it, to protect yourself from being too affected by it in case it changes. And almost everyone has this ceiling. Almost everyone has a level of good fortune beyond which something internal starts to resist, starts to look for the catch, starts to find the evidence that this is too much, too soon, more than can be trusted. It's built from the specific architecture of disappointments past, from the times that something good arrived and then left, from the lesson learned in the body, not in the mind, that the higher you allow yourself to feel, the further there is to fall. So the ceiling makes sense. It was built for a reason. It served a purpose. But the question worth asking, honestly, in this moment is whether the ceiling that was built to protect you from past disappointments is now the thing standing between you and the extraordinary thing that's actually coming. Because here's what becomes possible when the ceiling raises. When you decide quietly, internally, without announcement, that you're willing to receive something significant without immediately managing it down to a safe size, without finding the caveat, without keeping one hand braced. When you genuinely, bodily open to the full impact of something incredible, arriving the range of what's available to you expands. Not because the world changes, because you changed what you're capable of holding. Now, here's something worth clarifying about what incredible actually means. Not the generic version, not the lottery ticket, not the windfall, not the dramatic reversal of fortune that arrives from nowhere. The specific version, yours, the particular shape that something extraordinary takes in the context of your actual life, your actual situation, what you've actually been working toward, what you've actually been hoping for in the quiet, honest part of you that holds the real version of the wanting. Because the extraordinary thing that's coming, if you're going to recognize it when it arrives, needs to be held clearly in your own mind, not vaguely, not as a general sense of something better, but with the specific clarity of someone who knows what they're moving toward, who has looked honestly at the thing they want and named it privately without apology and decided that it's real and it's theirs and they're going to let it be fully received when it arrives. What does incredible look like for you specifically? Not for the person next to you, not the version that looks impressive from the outside. The version that would make you feel in the body, in the chest, in the specific place where real things land, like something that was supposed to happen finally did, like something that was yours finally arrived, like the particular personal version of extraordinary that has your name on it finally found its way to you. That version is worth knowing clearly because it's probably already approaching in a form you might not immediately recognize as the jackpot, because extraordinary things, real ones, often arrive quietly in the form of an opportunity that requires you to be paying attention, in the form of a person who shows up in an ordinary moment, in the form of a decision that doesn't feel dramatic but turns out to be the one that changes everything, in the form of something that doesn't look like the version you imagined but contains everything the version you imagined was actually about. And recognizing it being the person who sees it when it arrives in its actual form rather than the imagined one requires a particular quality of attention, not anxious attention, not the hypervigilant scanning of someone who's afraid of missing something, but open attention, the kind that comes from being genuinely present in your own life, from having your eyes actually on what's in front of you rather than on the screen or the past or the version of things that hasn't happened yet, from being the kind of person that good things can find because you're actually here, actually present, actually available to be found. And this is where the jackpot reveals its real nature, the one that matters more than the external version. The internal shift that happens before the external thing arrives, because every significant external change in a person's life is preceded by something internal, a decision, a clarity, a moment where the story they were telling themselves about what was available to them changed, where the ceiling raised, where the management of the hope gave way just slightly to the genuine, open, unprotected, believing that something extraordinary is actually for them, actually coming, actually already in motion. That internal shift, that's the jackpot, the real one, the one that everything else flows from. Because a person who has genuinely shifted internally, who has raised the ceiling, opened the hands, stopped managing the hope down to a safe size, is a fundamentally different person to be in the world. They notice differently, they move differently, they receive differently, they bring a quality of presence to their days that makes them available to the extraordinary in ways that the braced, protected, ceiling limited version simply isn't. And the extraordinary, whatever specific form it takes in your life, responds to that availability, finds it, moves toward it in the way that things which have been building underneath the surface, invisible, in the slow accumulation of everything you've been doing and becoming, finally arrive when the person they were always meant for becomes genuinely ready to receive them. So what does preparing look like right now in this ordinary moment, in the specific reality of where your life actually is? It looks like this. Like taking the ceiling seriously enough to examine it, like asking honestly, where am I managing the hope down? Where am I finding the caveat before the good news has landed? Where am I keeping one hand braced when both hands could be open? Not to be naive, not to ignore reality, but to stop using the protection against disappointment as a protection against arrival. It looks like clarifying what incredible actually means for you, specifically, personally, in the language of your own life rather than the generic language of good fortune. Getting clear enough on what you're moving toward that you'll recognize it when it arrives, even if it doesn't look exactly like you imagined. It looks like being genuinely present in your own days, not waiting for the extraordinary thing to arrive before you start living fully, not organizing your presence around the future version of your life where the jackpot has already landed, but being here, actually, fully here in the life that exists right now. Because extraordinary things don't arrive into futures, they arrive into presence, into moments where someone was actually there to receive them, actually paying attention, actually open. And it looks like deciding privately, without announcement, in the quiet, where real decisions get made, to stop being at war with your own hope, to stop treating the belief that something incredible is coming as something to be ashamed of or managed or qualified into something more realistic, to let it be as large as it actually is, as real as it actually is, as close as it might actually be, because something is building. You've felt it. That feeling, however carefully you've been managing it, however many times you've talked yourself back from it, hasn't gone away. It keeps returning in the specific, persistent way that true things return, in the way that real knowings don't dissolve just because you've tried to be reasonable about them. Trust that. Not blindly, not in a way that requires you to stop being present or stop doing the work or stop being the person who shows up fully in their own life, but trust it. Let it be as real as it feels. Let the ceiling raise just enough to actually receive what's been building. Because the jackpot, the real one, the one with your name on it, isn't waiting for you to deserve it more. It isn't waiting for you to be more prepared or more healed or more certain. It's waiting for you to be open enough to let it land fully, without the management system intercepting it, without the braced hand reducing its impact, without the ceiling limiting how much of it you allow yourself to actually feel. Both hands open, eyes actually here, ceiling raised, just enough to let something incredible actually arrive, it's coming. Not because someone said so, because something in you, the part that's been right about these things before, already knows. And this time, you're going to let yourself believe it all the way.